company once best known by gamers and Bitcoin bros has become the world's third most valuable company, worth over $2 trillion, all thanks to the current wave of advancements in AI and demand for processing power. We've been talking about Nvidia since the ChatGPT moment over a year ago, and yesterday, Nvidia founder and CEO Jensen Huang filled an arena for his keynote where he presented the latest and greatest Blackwell platform, his vision for the future, bigger, better, faster, more powerful, more power efficient. Nvidia basically changing everything we know about everything from creating an omniverse of digital twins to medical and pharmaceutical breakthroughs to weather forecasting, humanoid robots, self-driving cars. Tons of companies want to partner with Nvidia right now: Amazon, Microsoft, Oracle, Google. But with the stock already up 230% in the past year, some people think we're at the top, that this is an AI bubble about to burst. Or is it different this time? Is AI unstoppable? Is Nvidia the one company that benefits most and destined to be the most valuable company of all time? Is there any possible way that Nvidia's stock price could possibly double again? Today on Dumb Money, we're going to debate it, and we're going to tell you if we think it's the time to take profits or if we're going to double down.
This is Dumb Money Live.
Hey there, Dave here, along with Chris and Jordan. We are Dumb Money. Welcome to Dumb Money Live. Quick reminder to do your part this morning by smashing the like button. That's all we ask. Chris, Jordan, yesterday was actually the first time I'd ever watched a Jensen Huang keynote from beginning to end. I've seen clips before, but I was actually impressed. What'd you guys think?
Did you watch any of it, Jordan?
Yeah, I watched bits and pieces. I did not watch it start to end. Ain't nobody got time for that. But
I will tell you, I didn't watch it in real time. I watched it delayed with a 1.75 speed boost on that. But
I get it. Like, I get what they're doing. I understand the company pretty well. And so, but everything that I saw was super interesting. I didn't see, when I was tuning in and tuning out, I did not see the Apptronic highlight, but I saw the clip after you sent it over, Chris.
Yeah, it was kind of at the very end. And I, like you, Jordan, I don't think that they really did anything that was like brand new or unexpected.
It's not true.
Seeing kind of the whole story arc of all of the stuff, they're more than a GPU company. They're like an infrastructure platform company. And I think seeing them show that story and how they're able to basically do anything that you throw at them, and any industry, any problem, any task, they're up for the challenge, and they have this new stuff that's better, faster, that we knew was coming. And
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to decommoditize their hardware, right? To where if another competitor came in and were able to produce the types of, large scale, rack mount GPUs like they create, that they're more tied in with these individual companies, and so they want to partner with companies to help them solve problems, right? And so that's kind of a tagline to get their GPUs to be solving the problems that those companies want to solve.
I think that's probably the best way to think about this, Jordan. You just nailed it right there. They are doing exactly that. Nvidia is decommoditizing their entire product architecture. That was one of my big takeaways yesterday. I do think a lot of the things that they announced yesterday were not fully known or fully understood. I don't think they're fully understood today. In fact, I was monitoring the social buzz that was happening alongside. I watched it live in real time at 1.0, Dave. So I felt that they deserve that. They deserve the full watch at 1.0, and it was magical for me. I had not enjoyed any type of a tech related announcement or keynote this much since early Steve Jobs days. That's how exciting. I felt that yesterday Jensen essentially painted a picture of the next 5 years, which normally you would say 20 years, but things are moving so quickly. It's really hard to project more than 5 years at this point down the road. I feel that he did that, and he did it in a way that was maybe a little rough at points, because it wasn't so rehearsed.
Well, he
Like
spoke
you
for an
said
hour.
yesterday.
Steve Jobs had a perfectly scripted 20-minute presentation on and off. And, even in current Apple, everything's now pre-recorded with Apple. And they bring in other presenters and stuff. For him to go an hour and a half, less scripted feeling, just talking about the products. I'm sure there was a teleprompter. I'm sure it was a prepared speech, obviously, but it seemed like he just kind of gets his product line better than I would have expected him to.
Yeah, but one of my takeaways was just how uninformed the general investing public is in 2024, how short-sighted they are, how emotional they are. Um, if you are an investor in 2024 and you don't take an hour and a half of your day to watch this keynote at some point, it's on YouTube, watch it at 1.5x, 1.75x, that's fine. If you don't do that and you don't spend some amount of time actually reading informed opinions from people that actually understand this stuff, right? I don't mean opinions of investors, retail investors, kind of spewing off whether they think he's BSing or how important or not important this stuff is. Actually reading deep opinions from technologists that understand how this is going to impact these various industry sectors, then I don't even know what you're doing. Like, this is not 1980. This is not 2000. This is the
Yeah,
world
is
now.
it
It's
2000? Is it
technology based.
1999 again? That's what a
But
lot of people
Dave,
are saying is like this is like people investing in pets.com. And I don't see it that way because
no.
pets.com was a thing when everyone who put .com after their name was blowing up. This is the infrastructure company behind AI.
Well, it's not just
Di-
that, right, Dave? I mean, the difference here is immense. You had a big IPO boom in 99, 2000 with companies that, you're right, just put .com in the name. They had really good ideas. I what you have right now is you have huge existing companies that have profitability, that have a real business, that are seeing a real acceleration based on some of the new hardware trends and applications of those hardware, namely AI and machine learning, utilizing GPUs at a large scale, right? And so it's I think it's very different.
the dot-com boom was a complete and utter joke. I lived through it every second of the day. Yes, there were amazing things that came out of it. It was a period of creative destructionism unlike I had ever seen or witnessed in my life and have never witnessed since. Um, Perhaps we'll experience something like that again, but these two periods cannot be compared at all, quite honestly. And like I said, I did not, as you guys know, we were all working, at least Dave and I in LA in the middle of the dot-com boom for startups.
In
And every
99, I
day,
actually had just taken my job at Yahoo and was granted stock options at 1999 prices.
oh, the company I was working for had just raised 300 million in the biggest seed round ever, carsdirect.com. And I'll never forget thinking this entire industry is a freaking joke. There's so much criminal behavior happening. And there's a little bit of that. People are like talking about Jensen, like, oh, he's stuffing the channel. He's not actually selling these chips. There's a circular sales scam that's happening with Nvidia and all these companies. And like, dude, shut up. Just
I don't think that's the case.
it's so ridiculous. I think
Yeah.
we can't have a really good conversation about anything unless people understand the new framework of AI and how important it is to our civilization. If
Yeah.
you kind of go back, guys, and you look at every kind of major leap in industry, or more recently, the last 30 years in technology, the computing revolution, right? And what the computing revolution did uh, to individual enterprises, right? Like in terms of digitizing the way that we work within an individual enterprise. And then if you look at what the internet did in terms of taking that sort of productivity and efficiency, that quantum leap that we took at the enterprise level, and extending it globally so that all of the world's enterprises and industries and sectors would now have that interconnectivity through the internet, which was like this game-changing moment that brought productivity and efficiencies that we never dreamed would be possible, that brought, innovation and like a complete turnover of what the job market was and what the job market is today. I'm going to tell you guys, like, I feel like if you go back to each of those time periods, right before they happened, the world thought, oh, we are in such a hole. How are we going to get out of this hole? Well, the computer revolution got us out of that hole. And then it was the internet revolution got us out of that hole. And to a certain extent, I want to say that cloud computing, although maybe not as kind of in front of our face from a regular person understanding the importance of it, but cloud computing did so much for innovation and productivity and efficiency in the way that enterprise works that it again kind
Not
of
just enterprise, Chris. Think about cloud computing really allowed for a huge boom in startups, right? That really drove innovation and lowered that cost of entry for a startup to get organized. I mean, you could literally, get a startup going with a couple of guys and an idea, whereas before they'd have to invest a lot into infrastructure or
it,
physical hardware, all these things.
it saved us. Like it saved
Yeah.
us. And now I know I'm talking like it from a 30,000 square foot 30,000 high view of the world, but you have to admit that we are in a place right now with inflation, with the way that all the world's governments have been spending money irresponsibly the last decade, especially the last 5 years, uh, where everybody feels that we're in the biggest hole we've ever been in. How the hell are we going to get out of this hole? It is really easy to get really dark when you start to think about global economics and inflation and just the hole that we're in. It would take something so big, something that might have to be bigger than the internet revolution, and it just happens to be here right now, served to us on a silver platter. Thanks, Nvidia. That's how you have to think about this framework, right? The framework of AI, I think, is the biggest quantum leap in terms of change to the world that will improve productivity, efficiency, and innovation that we have ever seen in our lifetimes, period. So you
Changes
either
everything about
believe that or
everything.
you don't. What?
Yeah. It changes everything about everything.
Yes. It honestly, it will radically transform our civilization unlike anything in our life, and that's the starting point. That's the starting point. So once you understand that, you have to go back to each of those previous quantum leaps that we took, and you have to understand how we thought about them at the time, and then how we think about them now looking back 10, 20, 30 years. And then you want to apply what we've learned to this next revolution, right? The AI revolution. That's what I've been doing, guys. And if you look back, let's just start with the one that we all were kind of part of. Uh, but I feel like everybody thought it was a big joke, but the extent to which who the real winners were, the dot-com boom, right? So we had the dot-com boom, and there was a lot of BS that came out of it, but ultimately, who were the big beneficiaries, right? We thought that the beneficiaries of the dot-com boom were going to be all of these little companies that started, right? like anybody can start a company on the internet now, and to a certain extent, they were the beneficiaries, but long term, who really benefited was the kind of infrastructure of the internet companies are the real big beneficiaries. Wouldn't you say the same thing about Jordan, uh, what we saw with cloud computing? Cloud computing enabled all of these companies to operate more efficiently and for you to start companies. But who's the really big beneficiary of it? You go
Yeah,
back, it's
Amazon.
Amazon and Microsoft, right?
Right.
Still. So, okay, so here's the
And to a
framework
lesser
for AI.
extent, Google with their cloud, but yeah.
Yeah,
but
here's
you have to also, like, when you say internet, you happen to be picking the best case example of the infrastructure company that worked. I'm looking at a stock chart of Cisco Systems that was at $80 a share that has never got back to $80 a share.
Oh,
Split
okay,
adjusted
okay.
or whatever.
And I think that's a really important. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. Okay, because
Pause.
now we're gonna think about AI, and we're gonna put it through the same framework. And the I would say the accepted framework for AI is this: that Nvidia is empowering AI. And the next beneficiaries outside of Nvidia is going to be the first beneficiary of AI, and they have been. They were early last year, and they have been, and they still are today. The secondary beneficiaries of AI are the companies that Nvidia is spending its money with, meaning the infrastructure companies that are enabling this chip architecture, the server farms, right? Like all of the companies, like the fab companies, right? All the companies that Nvidia is spending money with, companies like SMCI, right? Those companies are the secondary beneficiaries of AI. And it looks like they have been over the past 3 to 6 months. Now, the next beneficiaries of AI, I think, which is accepted thought, would be the companies that are spending money with Nvidia, right? So not the companies that Nvidia is spending money on, but the companies that are paying Nvidia would be the third beneficiaries of AI. So these would be companies like Amazon, companies like Facebook, Meta, right? Companies like Google, all of the companies that are buying chips from Nvidia today are not spending billions and tens of billions of dollars on this AI kind of revamping their infrastructure to be AI centric. They're not doing that for nothing, right? Do you think Meta is spending billions of dollars on AI because they only think they're going to get billions of dollars of value out of it? No. When you spend billions of dollars, you think you're going to get tens of billions out of it, right? If not way more than that. So those would be the obvious next beneficiaries of AI. If you were to go down another level, it would be the companies that are building, right, on those, like on that layer, like the companies that are building on that layer. So Google is spending an insane amount of money with Nvidia because they think they're going to make more money with Nvidia. Now, who is now ultimately sitting on top of the things that Google is building with those Nvidia chips? That would be the fourth tier, okay? And then the fifth tier would be just the general productivity. Anyone that's benefiting from the general productivity that's coming out of that super cycle. So I think that's how it's kind of unravel. That's kind of how we think it's going to happen, and to a certain extent, it is. But where's the risk there, and where can you kind of count on a company really coming out in 5 years and being like, this was the least risky play that still had the most amount of upside? And I think the big challenge with Nvidia going back 6 months, 9 months, all the critics of Nvidia are making the same comparison that you just made, Dave, right back to Cisco. And they're saying this is a cyclical company. This is a company that doesn't have the kind of SaaS revenue associated with it to where they have to keep selling chips. So everyone's going to front load all the chips they need to build the infrastructure of this new kind of world that we're living in. And then once it's built, they are not going to benefit in the same way because they have to keep selling chips, right? But what happens when it's built out? What happens when it's commoditized? The big knock on Nvidia is Amazon and Google and Meta and Tesla, all of the biggest clients of Nvidia have all gone out to build their own AI chips, okay?
Yeah,
So
and
what happens?
AMD. Yeah.
What AMD? Like what? There are other companies like AMD that are building AI chips. What happens when they catch up and this gets commoditized? Nvidia is going to start to enter the down cycle. But when I was watching this keynote yesterday, I went into the keynote the exact opposite as most investors. You saw how much investors were pumping into the keynote. I don't know what they expected to hear, but I expected to hear potentially, yes, another chip cycle, fine, but eventually it's going to catch up with them. They can only make so many improvements, right? I ended up hearing something very different yesterday. I ended up hearing that Nvidia is becoming so entrenched with their architecture that you will never be able to leave them. You just won't be able to leave. Like, they are building something that is going to require you to, when you want to take step ups in the chips themselves, you have to step up with Nvidia chips because it's no longer about just the chip. They're basically, I mean, did you see what they announced yesterday? It's the communication between their chips, right? Between the way that they're reconstructing the architecture for AI infrastructure and software layers, and how everything communicates with each other, and digital twins.
They're doing their
Everything
best
that
to
they're building.
close off their entire platform to make their own walled garden so that once you develop in their platform, you have to stay in their platform. But
And
I could see all the other players that you've mentioned basically figuring out we don't want to stay in their garden. We want to build our own. And right now, the fastest way to develop is to play nice and be a partner of Nvidia. But what is to prevent Google from just eventually getting there? Tesla and Dojo, if it works. We have heard him not
Yeah,
too
I think the
optimistic
biggest
on
thing, Dave,
Google's
is that
recent
you
earnings
see
call.
Nvidia getting into bed with the companies that are actually building things, right? And so that I think that that's why they're out there showcasing, getting in there tight with companies like Apptronic,
Yeah,
is that
and
they
the slide they
are,
showed of non-tech
yeah,
users of their
right.
technology was I think the and very interesting takeaway that they had that many people presenting that were not tech companies at
Yeah.
their
guys,
GPU
I
conference.
think I've been talking about this for 6 months. Amazon has been aggressively trying to separate themselves from Nvidia the last year. They have been aggressively trying to get end clients to consider migrating away from Nvidia's architecture over to Amazon's AI suite. And they have not been very successful at all. And I talked about this a few times. Amazon finally decided to kind of aggressively go down dual paths, right? Saying, okay, fine, we're going to give you two options. You can build inside of our architecture, or you can build inside of Nvidia's, and we'll let you do that on Amazon because we don't want to totally lose you, right? Yesterday, I feel, was the biggest day for all these companies like Amazon, because what's happening at Amazon is also happening at other companies as well, right? It's not just Amazon. They're all trying to do the same thing. They don't want to be tied to Nvidia. But I think yesterday was a little bit of a white flag moment. They all threw in the white flags, and you could sense it. You could sense it through their quotes. You could sense it in their, please let me just kind of attach myself to you in this new thing you're building, because we understand it is a quantum leap in technology and we are just not there yet, and we're not going to pretend that we're there. If we do, we will lose all control with all the end clients that we so desperately need to remain inside of our ecosystem. And if you look at what Oracle is doing, if you look at what Google's doing, what Amazon is doing, what Microsoft is doing, they, as of yesterday, they have come out, it's actually almost embarrassing. They've come out and have just like begging for airtime, saying, no, 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 guys, we are at the bleeding edge with Nvidia. You can do all of this. You can do all of this. Everything that Jensen is saying, all of it. You can do all of it with us. It will be within Nvidia's architecture, but also we're going to allow you to stay with us too, to do the things that you still want to do with us. It is such a white flag moment for me. Like, that was instrumental in the way that I think about Nvidia. Now, Dave, I'm not saying that eventually in time, because the world changes quickly now, I'm not saying that 7 years from now that will still be the case. But what I was looking for yesterday is, could Nvidia announce anything that would give me confidence that they are going to continue to have a chokehold over the world for 2 years? That's all I wanted to hear, and I heard
So
it.
let's
There's no doubt in my
bring the
mind.
conversation about the technology advancements back to the stock, which is off of all-time highs, but has been on a tear for the past year. I saw a comment earlier that the prediction is that Jordan will not be buying or owning Nvidia. Jordan, how do you respond?
I've got an open order for some calls.
There we go.
Boom.
Love it.
I own Nvidia, by the way. I just don't own
Love it.
it's not like 10% of my portfolio. It's a very small portion, but I have been in and out of Nvidia a little bit. Do I wish that I would have been bigger earlier? For sure.
We all do. Yeah. Okay, now Chris, what about you? Because you're talking a big game on Nvidia, but you already have a way bigger position, a way bigger percentage of your portfolio is in this stock than Jordan. So what are you doing? Are you taking profits? Are you keeping what you have? Are you adding to it?
So last year, I think it was like we started in late 2022, we opened up a decent sized position in Nvidia, and we really went all in on Nvidia in like January or March of 2023. And then the world said, oh, Nvidia is overhyped and AI is overhyped. And I just kept buying more. I just kept buying more
the world
Nvidia.
Kept saying that. The world, every time it hit a new high, it's like, oh, well, yeah, it's.
And you know what I said?
As much as they can do.
I said, you're freaking imbeciles. Every one of you is an imbecile, not you guys. Every single person that was saying that last year, I was like, you're an imbecile because you don't understand. You're lazy. You're not doing your homework. You're just allowing I've seen this happen before. It's hype. I mean,
so what are you saying now to people who are selling or getting out because they think that it has hit its all-time high and it can only go down from here?
I feel.
Are they still imbeciles?
I don't know. I don't know how the market is going to react to anything in the short term. I didn't know how the market would react to Nvidia in the short term, but I had absolute confidence a year ago that Nvidia would be the largest beneficiary with the lowest risk when it came to AI. I still feel that way today. Stock price aside, I think if we look forward over the next 12 to 18 months, it seems obvious to me that Nvidia will be has the best risk reward as it relates to AI, because I feel that they've just basically announced the next 12 to 24 months in terms of everyone is going to be building on Nvidia. So I can't control what happens to the global economy and the stock market and speculators, but I feel comfortable keeping my position in Nvidia and adding to it. I would like to add to it some right now, and I am adding to. I have plans to add to it. I'm kind of looking at the stock today. I knew that it would be volatile today. I knew that a lot of traders were trading short term. I was hoping it would drop more. It hasn't dropped enough today. I would prefer, if you forced my hand, I would prefer to double down over sell, take profits in half my Nvidia. I'm not going to double down, but I do intend to add to my Nvidia here.
So I have not made any trades in my taxable account, but what I've done is I moved all of my Roth IRA from Tesla to Nvidia.
So, but
100%.
I love that. I love that. Dave, let's just talk about who was in attendance. We've seen some of these quotes on Twitter. There was $100 trillion of market cap, like of industry.
Not just in attendance, but actually
not market
presenting
cap.
at the GPU conference.
Yeah. Yeah, not market cap. It's 100 trillion in industry. It's what people are saying it looked like, right? There's people are saying it looked like. And I don't know the exact numbers, but what that means is the entire world of industry, every sector, every leading company, and everything that sits underneath them are all now saying that they are going to build on top of Nvidia's platform, AI platform. I can't remember a time in my life when I've heard anything like that. I honestly can't. This whole Blackwell and the degree to which Blackwell is accelerating innovation 1000x in 8 years. I mean, you guys know Moore's
Yeah.
law, the 10x compute every 5 years
Oh,
would
that's
make it
old. That's
one.
old law. We're
Yeah.
in new law now. We're 1000x every 5 years or something.
One of the most interesting and I think misunderstood announcements yesterday is NVLink. Uh, the broad concept behind NVLink, which was announced yesterday, and it's a new type of chipset that allows the entire kind of chip architecture to speak and communicate with each other, and it really makes everything more efficient, and it's really what's contributing a lot to the acceleration in speed and what they're able to do with AI. These are some of the things that sit outside of just we're producing another AI chip for inference, right? It's all of the different components working together, and this is all based on a platform that Nvidia founded 20 years ago, right? So this is 2 decades in the making. It The way that we think about companies like Nvidia is changing, and I don't think that's something that the market can do overnight. I don't think the market fully understands what it saw yesterday. And again, the big takeaway that us as ordinary people that are not really technologists, uh, at least I'm not, is that you had every company in the world basically saying, "We're in." Like, that is something that is so impactful to me as an investor, because if you ask yourself, how does Nvidia grow from a $2 trillion to a $4 trillion company? Well, that's not really easy to do. It might not even be
Yeah.
possible unless you have the entire world building on your platform within your infrastructure. Well, that's exactly what happened yesterday. Yesterday, he bait this entire week is basically a summit that is the whole world is now building inside of our architecture. And I think Wall Street is going to quickly figure that out, because what's going to happen after today is every single earnings call, every single tech summit around the world is going to be talking about how they are operating within this new AI infrastructure that is owned by Nvidia. So
Yeah.
I don't think this is about a 3-day conference. I think it's about a continuation of all we're going to hear about for the next 6 to 9 months is, yes, we are this closely partnered. Did you see the tweets yesterday? Every CEO bragging about how they're partnered with Nvidia, from startups to the biggest companies in the world. Can we read some of them, Dave? Do you
You should
have
read.
them?
You should read those. Did you send me a link? I can pull them up on the
I
screen
sent
too.
you and Jordan. I sent you and Jordan a tweet that
Oh
has
yeah, here's.
the quotes. Do you have them? I'm trying to pull it up here, guys. I know I don't want to just keep going on about this but I think it's really important. It's worth people just stop everything that you're doing. We've never seen this. I'm almost 50 years old. Okay, I've lived through every second of the dot-com boom, and it was highly competitive. Okay, I have never seen anything come close to this ever. This is freaking wild. Every
Somehow the
leading
screenshots you
company.
sent me are cropped on one side, but this gives you a taste of it here. I have them on the screen now.
I mean, they're simping for Nvidia. The entire world and every CEO is simping for Nvidia. Right now, if you're an investor in any company in the world, that touches technology, do you know what you're doing? You're trying to figure out how closely partnered they are with Nvidia. And that's what they're all doing internally. And they're all trying to fit. We have companies in our portfolio, in our private portfolios. These are private companies, and they are in California this week. And all we're hoping and wishing for is that they get good airtime at the conference, right? Like Aptronic was,
Yeah.
that's all we care about.
Yeah.
They had,
the tweet you sent was like like you grabbed the one frame where he is standing next to our robot, like as he just breezed by it, and I'm like, that's a little misleading, Chris.
But here's the thing. No, it's not misleading,
You're
Dave.
simping.
It's not. Yes, I'm simping for Apollo or Aptronic, but it's not just that. And it was Figures robot was there, right? And the only robot that wasn't there was Optimus, and that's fine. We know that Optimus is going to have a different path, and Tesla is going to have a different path, and that's another conversation. But I think what's really fascinating here is every one of the world's bleeding edge robotics companies outside of Tesla, okay, understood, outside of Tesla, was on stage. Every one of the world's robotics companies, whether they are humanoid companies or whether they are robotic arm companies, they were all on stage. Do you understand something? They are all going to be building their robots, the robots that we know are taking over the earth in the next 20 years. They are all building their robots inside of NVIDIA's architecture, right? Like this, that's just one industry sector. Just one industry sector. I think a lot of people that are diving deep into AI and what's really important, what the next step is for AI, have been talking about this digital twin concept, building out what they call a world model, right? So a world model is going to enable regular, constant training of everything that's happening in the world through this kind of AI learning data set, right? To where AI is going to continuously be learning from the entire world. So that is the way that we kind of get to more of a general, right, artificial intelligence. That's what everybody is reaching for, whether or not we like that or not. That's what's happening. So I think it's well understood that the best way to get there, and some people believe the only way to get there, is through this world model.
Well, talk
And
for a minute about what the world model actually is and how it benefits the world.
so you can't figure out how to develop technology that can run the world unless artificial intelligence understands and is able to train itself on everything that's happening in the world and as it's unfolding in real time, right? Meaning what's happening inside of your house, what's happening on the streets. That's what Tesla's doing. With their AI, what's happening inside every factory in the world, what's as people are changing the way that they speak, just as the world unfolds, as politics changes, as industry changes, the AI needs to constantly be learning from that. If we're going to have robotics doing everything that physical labor does today, then robotics are going to have to learn how we do physical labor in every corner of the earth. It's going to have to understand every single edge case. And the edge cases
Well,
are
it doesn't have
not.
to understand every single edge case, but what has to happen. So if you think about like what's been happening with large language models, it's all language, right? And with visual data, you've got orders of magnitude more information that comes in. Even if you just think about how much your visual system processes, it's enormous, right? And so
Hence the
that's
phrase, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
yeah, but think about that also streaming in real time. And so I mean, the problem space is huge, but that's how humans have learned to, deal with the real world and can deal with things, um, and have learned about object permanence and some of these things that the models can't deal with right now. And that's going to take new paradigms in some of these models. And more importantly, it's going to take a ton of these GPUs to be able to process that information. Because no matter what, I mean, you're never going to get these GPUs to be as electrically efficient as a human brain is.
Jordan, one of the
Maybe.
counter arguments that I read yesterday, which kind of set me off a little bit, was that, Nvidia is building all of this because they feel that we are going to require trillions and trillions, right, of these like the language models, right? Like it needs so much data. But the reality is they think that the data is getting smaller now with some of these AI models, and what they don't and they're like, we won't need trillions. I'm like, well, that
I've read papers on these on the LLMs to where they've got some ideas to make them way more efficient underneath the hood.
Okay, but those are just LLMs, okay?
Right.
And what people don't understand is that, Nvidia announced they talked about their Omniverse yesterday, right? Which is their digital kind of twin platform. But what people don't understand is that we are going to have to create models that work for every factory and every port and every warehouse and eventually every household and every street and anywhere where there's anything operating that might be specialized. It might be specialized for that company, but the cumulative effect of having to constantly retrain data for billions of niche use cases, right? It might not be, a large language model, but everyone is going to have their own models. Every single industry sector
But
is
the
going
same
like
way a
Yeah, I
large
mean,
language
look, so
model.
the models that are running, like if you take it to like the robot, right? An LLM is somewhat useful for these robotics platforms, but they're not nearly all that they need. Also a visual system is important, but it's not everything that that robot needs. You also need motion systems, and you need a system to train and deal with all of its moving parts. And so these multimodal type systems are going to become very important to, like you said, deal with the problems that each system needs to deal with. So there's not going to be one AI. It's going to be you have different AI systems to handle different tasks.
And so there might not be trillions of tokens that are required for,
Yeah,
LLM model, but
right.
collectively, I think there will be many, 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 many trillions of tokens that need to be retrained constantly
I
that
think
are
that it'll
such.
get more efficient at the training, but we're constantly having to feed it more stuff to be trained. And so it's going to be able to do more with less sample data, but then you just have way more sample data that needs to be thrown in for different use cases.
But Dave, the world is not static either. Like it's constantly evolving and changing, and every one of these models is going to need to keep up
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
Right.
changes that are.
The
Even,
physics
and I
that have
hate
been
to keep
around
bringing it
since
back to
the
the
beginning of
humanoids,
the
but the
Earth
factory is going to
won't
change
change.
every day. The workload's going to change. The types of parts that they're going to be interacting with, the boxes, all this stuff is going to change constantly. So you can't look at this as a static problem.
So there are not many people, I think, in the business world, very few people in technology media that can wrap their heads around the shift that's happening and what is required. When Sam Altman came out about a month ago and said that he thought we needed to raise $5 trillion for
Yeah.
the next chip company, okay? He is on another level in terms of what he has visibility into,
Yeah.
okay? And people
Shout
that
out,
are
by the way, he yesterday a podcast released. He's on the Lex Fridman show.
I didn't hear it yet. I want to.
Yeah,
But
it's
but
great.
Jordan, people are sitting here today talking about how is Nvidia going to grow beyond the $2 trillion market cap, and Sam Altman is talking about how he needs to raise 5 trillion for some non-existent company, right, to support the future of what AI is going to require. Okay, now put those two things together. someone's not making sense here, right? Perhaps Sam is being a bit too ambitious.
I think so. He clarified a little bit on that. I think you should listen to the podcast to kind of get his full point of view.
Explain.
What's that?
Explain. What did you hear, and how does it work into this?
So yeah, I mean, it's kind of taken out of context, but I think he was just trying to conceptualize the magnitude of what's going on. That he was necessarily trying to do that himself.
Okay, but that's fine. But if that's the magnitude of what needs to happen, you already have.
He sees chips and especially GPUs as this resource that's going to be under kind of undercreated and overutilized in the near term.
So can we agree on this? Can we agree on this, that for Nvidia, it's no longer about competition, at least not for the next 2 years. The question for investors, the question for Nvidia investors is not whether or not someone else can compete with them the next 2 years, because it appears obvious to me that no one is competing with Nvidia the next 2 years. Nobody. The question is, how large is the market? The question is, what is the magnitude of AI and what AI will require in terms of technology and infrastructure? That is the question. And what you just told me, Jordan, is Sam Altman is trying to make a case for the magnitude of what this industry will require, which appears to me is meaningfully larger than what exists today. So if we think that the magnitude of what this world will require is meaningfully larger than where it is today, and we know that Nvidia is the only company in the world that is sitting at a place where you are required to buy what they're selling to kind of bring that to market, then it seems obvious to me that Nvidia still has a long ways to go in terms of its growth trajectory, right? Like, what am I missing here? So unless someone's wrong about the magnitude, but that's the only question that we need to ask ourselves right now is how big is the magnitude of change of AI in terms of what it will require to rebuild the earth in an AI world? What will we actually need in terms of compute? It all comes down to what will we need in terms of compute, because the only company that is capable of driving that compute right now is Nvidia. That's it.
So I just asked AI to watch that entire video and summarize for me, according to Sam, what NVIDIA's role will be in the future. And it says that NVIDIA's role in the future, according to Sam, is likely to be a significant in providing essential compute power needed for high-performance computing, artificial intelligence, and machine learning tasks. As demand for compute power continues to increase, companies like NVIDIA will play a crucial role in developing powerful GPUs that support advancements. Their expertise in AI and autonomous driving technologies position them well to be a key player in shaping the future of technology. I asked more generally what he said we need in the future and about raising $7 trillion. Sam believes that investing heavily in compute power is essential for the future. He mentioned the need for a significant amount of compute power that is difficult to imagine currently. He highlighted the importance of creating structure that can withstand pressure as the world progresses towards the future. Additionally, he emphasized the significance of governments rather than companies making decisions about AI and the importance of scientific and technological advancements in driving real economic growth. Though Sam did not specifically mention the need to raise $7 trillion, his focus on investing in compute power and other technologies suggests a substantial financial commitment is necessary for the future.
I actually think
that is the future telling me to watch this 2-hour podcast so I don't have to listen to it and I can now ask it questions. I love the current future.
Dave, I think that Earl Boyce in his comment did a better job than AI summarizing what Altman said. And Earl says in the comment feed here, what Sam Altman said is compute is going to be the most valuable commodity in the world. Okay? So if you believe Sam Altman, then you have to buy more Nvidia today. That's my ultimate thesis. And we're not financial advisors, by the way. I'm not saying that anybody should go out and buy Nvidia. I'm saying, like me, I need to buy more Nvidia today because I actually believe that compute will be the most valuable commodity in the world. I do agree with Sam Altman. That means that I need to go out and buy more Nvidia, and I'm going to do that. Also, I felt TMC says Jensen yesterday didn't even mention anything about their gaming GPU, and I'm just realizing that now. That's kind of wild that in a 2-hour keynote, he didn't even dedicate 5 seconds to gaming. This is Nvidia. Nvidia has built its entire company around gaming the past 6 years. Oh my god, that's insane. Think
They're
about
not
that
a
for a
gaming
second,
company
guys.
anymore.
2-hour keynote. 2-hour
Yeah.
keynote. Not one
Not one mention of Call of
mention.
Duty.
Not
I
one
mean,
mention of gaming.
all of their growth has been obviously in the data center now. So
Do you remember, Jordan, 5, 6, 7 years ago when it was common for technologists to ultimately come back and say, well, gaming is like one of the biggest industries in the world. So if you can kind of develop something for gaming, like gaming was actually such a monstrous industry that it would take over conversations when it came to technology infrastructure. Gaming is what the world was talking about. That's where we were 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
How embarrassing is that now? Now that we're entering the age of AI, talking about rebuilding the entire earth and everything that man does, from physical labor to every type of technology to software to coding, everything that we do is going to get reconstructed from the ground up to be in an AI world. And that's like maybe 100 times bigger than the gaming industry. How much, the magnitude of how much larger this change is relative to cloud computing, relative potentially to the internet, and relative to the computer industry at large before it, relative to the mobile phone, to the iPhone. This is so large, and we've talked about this so many times. Is this a black swan event? A positive one? Is this an
A
event
white
that's
swan
so
event.
big?
I think we should call it a white swan event.
A white swan, whatever. Is what I mean by that is this a change? Is this a shift that's so large that simply nobody in the investment sphere is smart enough to see it or understand it? And if you think about where we were back last February, January, February 23, when it took us three, or us two of the three idiots on this show, me and Jordan, to have a Twitter Spaces that went on for like 2 hours. And why were we the only ones talking about, oh my gosh, we got to like go all in on Nvidia back then? And no, like people were talking about it, but obviously they weren't putting their money into Nvidia back then because it took a little bit for the market to catch up. Is this so big that we just can't wrap our head around it, and we have this glass ceiling, this ceiling of a $2 trillion company, that it just seems ridiculous that you can't grow bigger than that? And so Wall Street is basically looking at Nvidia, and retail investors are looking at Nvidia, and they're thinking, dude, this thing is a cyclical company. Hype, hype, hype. They oversold all their chips. People bought
yeah,
too many chips. They're going to come down at the other side. They don't. Okay, let's say this is a cycle. AI is a cycle. I will agree with that. AI is a cycle, just like cloud computing is a cycle, just like the internet was a cycle, just like computers were a cycle, just like the mobile phone was a cycle for Apple. Okay, but is the magnitude of this cycle, is the largeness of this cycle so much bigger than any other cycle that we've been through, that the natural progression through the cycle will just be bigger, right? Meaning, does this cycle take a company like Nvidia to a $4 trillion valuation, to a 5 trillion, to a $6 trillion valuation before the cycle peaks? Because
Could it be as big as Microsoft and Google combined?
But maybe, Dave, Microsoft and Google potentially get way bigger as the result of this cycle. But Nvidia, if they lead the cycle, perhaps becomes the biggest company by 2 or 3x. What I'm saying is, let's look at where we are in this AI cycle, okay?
Yeah.
Virtually nobody in the world is really using AI yet, outside of maybe they're using ChatGPT in some ways. I mean, I'm starting to see AI brought into some of the software that I use in the dumbest way possible. Like they're adding a widget just to allow it to summarize some just basic information. Have we even scratched the surface of just the general business person realizing that, oh my gosh, like the entire future, the next 25 years of how I interact with the world is about to change because of AI? I don't think people realize that yet. I mean, we talk about it every day, but I don't think anyone
Yeah.
realizes it yet. Do you remember like cloud computing, Jordan, when you were building we have to go before ticker tags, when we go all the way back to eCarList, and you were building eCarList on top of the Amazon on AWS, and I used to ask you all these questions because I was like, dude, this is a big deal, right? And you were like, Chris, literally every company in the world is going to be building, because you were very early, like you were like very early building on AWS. And I remember you telling me that basically every company in the future was going to be built the way that you were building eCarList on AWS. And I was like, dude, if that's true, dude, I got to put more money in Amazon. But
Yeah.
most people didn't believe it at the time. In fact, do you remember how many technologists at the time were just dead set against cloud computing? Dead set against it. They were like, this is not going to take over. This is not going to be the default. It will
Yeah, well, the
not.
thing is, it was mostly, and I hate to dig into this, but it was mostly like infrastructure people that had like their domain, and their domain was to manage servers, right? And to manage the services that were sitting on top of these servers. And so they didn't want their turf to be stepped on. But what AWS really did, aside from letting you not have to deal with that, was just to open up like your compute to where your brain could think about other things than managing servers and managing processes and managing all these things. And so you could be more creative and more nimble and not worry about all these underlying things. You don't have to worry about the hardware, right? And I think to a certain extent, maybe that's what Nvidia is doing by platformizing a lot of things as well.
It's so interesting to me because I feel like I'm having one of those moments, and it started last January and it hasn't stopped even today. I'm sitting here realizing that I'm not thinking big enough about AI. Like I was, and I think pretty big, but I'm sitting here like I think this comment by Pokemon Hollow, I'm not going to mention it again, but the electric grid issues being overlooked. It will pop up when suddenly they can't do what they want because it takes years and they haven't started. Well, that's interesting because I agree there's a part of this story that touches energy. Um, but that's going to make it even more important to develop more efficient architecture. And I think a
Yeah.
big part of what NVIDIA did yesterday is they showed that this new platform, okay, that they're coming out with reduces, I want to say, for the same output, it reduces the power efficiency is improved 4x.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yes,
so
you get more efficient there. I think, there's going to be a certain point in the future that we're going to have to look at the way that we manufacture energy and decide that we've got to make changes, and that, we already have the technology to do this cleanly. But that's an entirely different discussion on,
okay, but until then,
enabling
Jordan,
nuclear.
but until then,
Yeah.
how important it is to be working within an AI infrastructure, right, with chips that are doing things efficiently. Because if you have a data center, okay, and you want that data center to produce the maximum amount of output. You have a limited amount of power. People don't understand that these data centers have to negotiate how much power they're going to get from the municipalities that they're in.
Yeah.
So
so if they're capped on kilowatt hours or something like that, and the only thing that they could change would be the chips, and you get a chip that's has 4 times the throughput, it probably makes sense to make that capital investment.
That's exactly correct.
The
You
stat that
can't
they
just
mentioned was 90 days to train a GPT with 8,000 GPUs, but now we could do that same 90 days with 1/4 the power with only 2,000 GPUs.
People that don't understand data centers and what they're dealing, because like you guys know this. I sat down with one of the largest data center operators in the world a few weeks ago and had brunch, and he was talking to me about the difficulty in setting up these high density data centers and the negotiations for power. It is so, and for water, it is so difficult all around the world. This is not just in the US. This is happening in every country around the world, that you can't just exponentially grow that data center world. You can't exponentially grow the amount of power that you can send to these data centers. So if you have the chip infrastructure and the server infrastructure for AI that can produce more with the same amount or with less, right? Produce more with less, then you hold the keys to the kingdom. And I think that's being underappreciated here. It's how a company like Nvidia will handcuff the entire industry. It's why Nvidia has a chokehold on Meta and on Tesla and on Google and on Amazon. Nvidia has a chokehold, and Oracle. They have a chokehold on these companies. You can't leave. You know what they want to do? They don't want Nvidia. They want to leave Nvidia. Nobody wants to be bound to Nvidia. Nobody wants to put out the quotes that they put out yesterday. There's not a single CEO in the world that wants to go to their board.
They want
and tell them that they're
competition,
stuck
right?
with
So
NVIDIA.
they want the Nvidia GPU to be the exact same as one that Intel could produce, as one that AMD, because then you've got competition, and then you've got you've got price wars on these things. But that's not the case right now.
And I don't believe it's going to be the case for the next year and a half. And I don't think the market fully appreciates that. I don't think the market at a surface level understands what exactly NVIDIA is doing here and how unusual it is to have all these companies that actually hate NVIDIA behind the scenes, okay, uh, do what they did yesterday.
Because it's expensive, right? I mean, these are expensive devices.
Yeah.
It's expensive to integrate with it. I mean, the whole thing's an expensive endeavor for these tech companies.
Yeah. So, in summary,
yeah, we're over an hour now, so we do need to wrap it up, because even at 1.75 times speed, this is a long video.
In summary, I'm going in deeper on NVIDIA. I don't care. I've been doing it for the last year. I might, and if it drops, I'm fine with that. I'll go in deeper after that. I don't see any better risk reward in AI right now than NVIDIA. I'm just so unbelievably impressed at what they did yesterday. Oh, by the way, I know we just scratched the surface when it came to robotics and humanoids. I think the humanoid part of yesterday's keynote got a lot of pushback from people saying, "Oh, what is this? Why do they have humanoids on stage? This is so stupid. This is like, if you believe that that's going to happen, you're being ridiculous." People don't understand. They don't see what's happening right
Was
now.
that the reaction?
I saw a lot of people on Twitter kind of poking fun at the humanoids, and they're like, "This is Jensen just, trying to stretch too far when they put the humanoids on stage." People don't
I think that's
understand.
good to know, though. I think that's good to know that that's kind of like the general consensus on humanoid robots at the moment.
I want to read a tweet. I think this tweet is really important, guys. Okay? So, give me just a minute. This tweet is from Jim Fan, okay? Jim Fan is a research manager and lead embodied AI of the Gear Group for Nvidia, okay? He creates foundation models for agents, robotics, gaming, Stanford PhD, big following on Twitter. He tweeted this out yesterday. 2024 is the year of the humanoid. There's no robot hardware more general purpose. We are all in, okay? This was not a publicity stunt for Nvidia yesterday. This was not a joke. Nvidia is all in on humanoids. The biggest, most impactful, powerful company in the world is all in on humanoids and telling you that 2024 is the year of the humanoid. Okay. So they have made a foundational model called Groot. Groot is the foundational model for humanoid robots. It's going to enable the robots to follow natural language instructions and learn new skills from human videos and demonstrations. Okay. Generalist robots are going to need an intelligent mind, and Nvidia is going to give that to them. They're working closely with every single robotics company, including two that we're involved with, Figure AI and Aptronic, helping them accelerate these humanoid robots to be able to learn quickly anything that a human can do. I have put in over 100 hours of humanoid research in the last 120 days, and I have absolute confidence that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when humanoids take over every physical labor job on Earth. That's happening. I made some of the largest investments I've ever made in my life over the past few months in private humanoid companies, and I intend to mirror that investment in I would say one of two publicly traded humanoid companies, because I now consider Nvidia to be a publicly traded humanoid company. I also consider Tesla to be the other publicly traded humanoid company. And I do believe that Tesla is likely to be in the pole position and a leader in humanoid robots. And at some point in time, I'm going all in on Tesla for their Optimus humanoid. But now I'm equally excited about Nvidia, because Nvidia is going to have a heavy hand in the future of humanoid robots going forward.
Yeah, and I was very impressed with the humanoid section of this video yesterday, because that is something that I think is the future, and to see how heavily Nvidia is going into the humanoid space and building an infrastructure that all the humanoid companies other than Tesla can use as their platform and training mechanism and all of that. I love Nvidia. I bought more today.
All right, Dave, really quick, because there are a lot of Tesla guys who watch our show. Before we end, how impactful was yesterday, positive and negative, for Tesla and Elon specifically? I think that yesterday probably lit the biggest fire that's ever been lit under Elon Musk's butt. And I can't wait to see how he reacts. I think this is a real threat to Tesla, and I believe that Elon will perform better as a result of what was announced yesterday by Nvidia.
Elon works well under pressure. He works well when challenged, and I think this was a challenge to his territory, and he wants to be the humanoid robotics company of all time. Optimus, he wants to be the default humanoid in the world. First, best, end of discussion. I think that Tesla is a robot company, and he's kind of like, God, I hate being a car company. I just want to move to robots.
I agree. And this gives him almost like a green flag to do
it gives him
so.
permission to like really focus on this publicly.
I have heard from inside sources.
This seems like we should do a whole show on the Nvidia and Optimus.
I just want to say this because I don't know that Tesla investors really know this, but I have heard from sources of mine that Elon very recently is become much more involved with the Optimus program and is laser focused on Optimus. And I love hearing that. I think it's about time. And
Who'd you hear that from? Like, you don't have to tell me who specifically, but was it an industry insider on robotics, or is it just?
It was not from someone at Tesla. It was from someone that works closely with all of these companies, that knows that Elon, with all the robotics companies, and that said that Elon has a renewed kind of focus and passion for ensuring that Optimus is a success. And I love to hear that because I think he should be only focused on Optimus. I think he should just forget that he owns Twitter. Like, just forget it. I know it's a hard thing. It's the biggest distraction ever. I hate it. I know that he feels that he's doing the right thing for humanity with Twitter, and maybe he is. But as a Tesla shareholder, I think it's the worst thing for Tesla in the short term, at least. So
the only thing it gives you is a glimpse into what he's really thinking on a minute-to-minute basis. But the distraction factor is huge.
I think it's good for Tesla long term. I think Elon is going to refocus himself on Tesla and Optimus. I truly do. I think the pressure's on now, and it will work to the benefit of Tesla over the long term.
I hope so. Because even though I did sell the Tesla shares that I held in my 401k, or not 401k, IRA, Roth IRA, switched all. I was 100% in Tesla there. Now I'm 100% in Nvidia there. I hope that was not the dumbest move I've ever made, but I like high concentration in that account.
At some point, Dave, we need to think about putting on our Tesla position in a big way. I've actually reduced my Tesla position recently, and I want nothing more than to get ultra long in Tesla. And it's all about timing. I'm not sure when it's going to happen. I feel the timing is not today, but it will be hopefully by the end of this year. So,
and with that, we are definitely over the 30 minutes that we aim for. Thanks for sticking with us this whole time. We got a lot of people watching right now, so thank you. On your way out, hit the like button if you haven't. And we're Dumb Money. We will see you whenever we see you. I don't know when our next show is going to be. We might do another one this week. Definitely next week. We'll see. That's it. All right. See ya.